Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where in the world you are. In fact, we'd love to hear where in the world you are. So please do post that in the comments so that we can. It's always fun to see. We get Nigeria and the Netherlands, and it's just super cool to see how many people are tuning in and from where. Today, I have Andrea Eimers with me. She's the co founder of Workplace Wellness. I love that it's her and her mom doing this business. And they're focused on inclusive, holistic wellness programs. So they're working with companies to help their employees stay healthy and reconnect with colleagues, especially post-pandemic. And she's got on-site and virtual. So I'm going to ask more about what you do. But thank you for being here with me.
Absolutely. No, I love what you do and what you stand for. It was easy for me to be on this. So
Awesome. All right, we got one person from Columbus, Ohio. Thanks for letting us
nice.
know where you're from. So let's start by talking about workplace wellness. Andrea, what do you do? Tell us a little bit more about, your partnerships with your clients.
Well, I would first like to say before we get into this for my fellow Columbus invitee is go blue. No, I'm just kidding. But I
Hey.
went to University of Michigan. My sister went to Ohio State, so we're house divided. Um, no, but to get into that a little bit, yeah, what we do is we do on-site and virtual consultation for wellness, but we look at wellness in a holistic way, which is we provide inclusiveness, we try to engage all the employees, and on top of that, we bring in all these different competitions and everything we can do to kind of re-engage, like she was saying, a disconnected workforce that we're currently facing right now. But yeah, through physical, nutritional, social, and mindfulness, we try and bring that holistic wellness term together and offer resources both virtually and on site for all employees to participate in.
Awesome. I love that. We definitely all need that. We've got people from India and Montreal, Canada. And I'm gonna
Awesome.
murder this, but IKEA con I murdered that. I'm sorry, Linda. Anyway, so and by the way, feel free to ask questions along the way or comment, and I'll read them out to Andrea, or I can share them. I found a new little feature here. So we were talking before we went live about work-life integration versus
Mhm.
work-life balance. So tell us about that concept.
Yeah, I think that the best way to explain it, I mean, we could go for hours about it, but the best way to explain it is that work life balance is a concept that we never really can fully perfect.
Mhm.
Because, in my opinion, what work life balance is saying is that sometimes my work is more important than my family. And that should never be the case, right? It should
Mhm.
never be that your family is more important. So it's finding the most productive and resourceful ways to integrate it into your life where you never have to prioritize what's really important, because in the end work's important but it's not our life, and we need to learn to integrate it in a way where we're always prioritizing what matters to us but just
Mhm.
slowly integrating what isn't a firm priority.
Right. And
Yep.
just to add to that, when I think of work-life balance, you think of a scale, as if you
Correct.
go to work and the scale tips this way, and then you walk home, the
Yep.
scale tips to the other, or you
Yep.
walk across the scale, and then it tips the other way. And so there's this idea that there's a line. And
Yes.
in fact, when you write it out, there's a line in between
Yep.
work and life. And I've kind of been feeling, you know what, there's never really been balance, because I talk about work at home. When you're at parties on a Saturday night, you're talking about what
Hmm.
you do. You think about it at night before you go to bed. So I think there really probably never was work-life balance,
Agreed.
even in the 50s when maybe that was more of a possibility. But
Yes.
what
Yeah,
we do for work is a part of who we are and our
it is.
self-concept. Yeah. We've got a great question. Do you have any insight on making addiction recovery easier in the workplace? Is that anything that you work with, or do we need to send Kevin to another resource? And thanks, Kevin, for asking about that.
It's a great question. We don't have a specific section necessarily for addiction, although the great thing about our what we're trying to do is we're trying to add on as time goes on, hence the reason we have the mobile app and more of a technological based program that can also be on site so that we can add more content in the future. That being said, we do have a complete mindfulness section, and I have hired meditation experts that have put different breathing and meditation techniques that are to help you in a high stress state. And I know from any sort of addiction, if you're during a point where you're trying to become clean, stress is inevitable. I mean, that's like that's like the lowest of your priorities when you're going through that is stress. But we do have resources to help with the mental aspect of it, but not specifically toward addiction. However, I do think that any mindfulness resource we have can help you in the long run with your process of becoming clean, if that's what your goal is.
Yeah. Kevin,
Yep.
I'd like to add to that too. I recently, and I can share it in the comments later, that a couple weeks ago, I think I did a LinkedIn Live with my good friend Jules, who's also been sober very proudly and publicly for, I think, 4 years. And we did a whole thing around the holidays and keeping alcohol not, so that it's not the focus. So if I know addiction maybe is speaking more about drugs, which we're never bringing into the workplace, but weirdly we bring alcohol into the workplace all the time. But to be thinking about in terms of that whole conversation was around kind of inclusivity, that if you're going to include people who are sober, or maybe you don't know who's struggling with being sober, not to make parties that, like, the bar is the focus, and that you treat that like anything else. What are the needs of my people? So I'll just throw that out there. It's a little side topic.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us about, maybe a case study. What's one program you've worked on with a client, and how did you see it impact the workplace?
Well, one thing I see a lot is, especially with one of my clients, is I think what in wellness programs, people just want to be heard. So I think one thing that we try and integrate in our program that is something that anyone can implement is just going out of your way to survey your employees. But I think it's more than just surveying, because what we do with surveys is we usually just send out an email and say survey and you'll get a $10 certificate. Now, we all love a $10 certificate, but a lot of the times we just ignore it, which is kind of where I like to integrate the hybrid on-site as well. We try and have a dedicated wellness consultant that is local to the person, because I want to go in, walk around on a day that most people come in, because we're at a point where 3/4 of our workforce is now going hybrid, right? So there's usually a day that people set that everyone comes in. You go in and you actually hold them accountable to do those surveys and figure out what they actually want, which that we have hence started competitions based off of the needs of the employees, and participation has gone up much more because they're like, hey, I actually want to do this because you guys actually asked me what I wanted. So yeah.
Okay. Nice. Nice. We've got another really great question. I love this. Keep the good questions coming. So Liz is asking, how do you start a conversation about workforce wellness within a high context culture society such as Japan or China? So the conversation approach maybe changes depending on culture. Do you have any thoughts on that?
That's an absolutely great question. I actually have, so I was in staffing before this. And so transitioning into wellness, we actually have a lot of Japanese run clients, and they are it's a different pool. I think that whenever I approach companies onto wellness, I think if we're looking at different company perspectives, one thing that we can all agree upon is money. So it's finding ways to show them that, you can get an ROI from your employees just being happier. And I think people don't understand that, because I think our personality studies per se, or studies based off of employee response aren't taken as seriously, because you think it's skewed because it's not based off of actual numbers or facts. But the reality of it is that you need to understand that there will be an ROI. It might not be exactly what you want, but it will. And I think with cultures that are more, geared toward that, the Japanese culture, actually, they're more invested into it than most people would think. I think that the Japanese culture is very healthy in comparison. I mean, I'm American, don't get me wrong, but they really are. So it's more about selling them on the dollar amount and trying to prove the ROI to, it really does depend on the culture, but you brought up Japan and I happen to have some experience with that specific business culture. So
Yeah, and I'm in the same boat where,
mhm.
I'm selling basically, hey, positive relationships among peers. Weirdly enough, CEO, actually, there's an ROI there, and in some
There is.
you may not really be able to prove it or see it on the
Yep.
P&L, but it's there. Just common sense says that it's
Yep.
there, and same with wellness. I have a cold today, or I'm fighting all of my allergies, as I
Yep.
was telling Andrea
Yep.
before we started. And I'm probably not going to work as hard today, to be honest. So if I was well, then I would be working harder. So I think
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. And I'm just going to say, I see a spam thing coming in. So everybody, please ignore that. Shame on you, person spamming us.
Agreed, though.
Yeah, obviously, I will go right. I've never had that happen, so I'm going to go right to my assistant and see if she can do some research on how to make sure that doesn't happen again. So apologies. It says "hot girls for you." It's I know you can't see it, Andrea. So don't
Wow.
nobody click on that.
Let's avoid that. That's not
Yeah,
really.
that's not workplace wellness. Okay.
No,
Um,
don't promote that.
all right. So, okay. So, this is a great question, and I was thinking
Mhm,
about it too. So, I'm going to say Sharif. Hopefully, I didn't butcher your name. How can we evaluate wellness activities we do and present that to the C-suite? Which kind of goes along with what we were just saying. So, I would say maybe there's a part A and part B.
mhm,
How do you present the data to convince a C-suite to buy into workplace wellness?
mhm.
Once you've done some workplace wellness, how do you then turn that into that case study?
So that's a great question. So if I was going to your C-suite without working with you at all, I would show case studies from other clients that I work with because I do, while, we're newer, we do have clients, but we're newer. So, and we already have some case studies of the happiness going up in the workplace and them seeing differences in people's attitudes when they come in, which
Mhm.
this is a proof effect, which you're just talking about, which it's hard to prove something like this, but
Yeah.
it is the happier you are, the more productive you are. I think it's just what it is, right?
Yeah,
Um,
I can,
yeah.
I often cite a Harvard Business Review article
Mhm,
where they looked at 225 research articles on happiness. So they did
yep,
a meta-analysis and they found that happy employees are 3 times more productive and three
I read
times
that.
more creative. So
Mhm.
yes, there is an ROI.
Yeah, and you know what? And that's Harvard too. So we all know that's
Yeah.
credible.
Yeah.
And to second part of that question, like you were saying, if we've been working together, so I do have a client that was like, we're gonna do a 6 month trial. A wellness program can't be too fruitful or successful within 6 months, and people in the industry would understand that because it's a long term journey, not a short term goal. But
Yeah.
that being said, what I do in the beginning is I talk to usually HR because they're who's leading this initiative. And I say to them, here, we're going to go through a few questions and you're going to rate them on 1 through 10. Where do you think you are now?
Mhm.
And I'm going to send these that we discuss in email right after. And 6 months from now, you're going to tell me where you feel we are with those same exact questions. And then we can go to your C suite executives and say, listen, this is how we feel we've made a difference in just 6 months.
Yeah. And I would imagine a little like a diet. It's not going to,
Oh, yeah, it's absolutely like that. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
that's a big part of the actual program. So,
Yeah.
yes,
You're not
yes.
going to see immediate results right away,
No,
right
there's
away.
no magic pill to wellness. There never will be.
No.
Right? There just
Dang
isn't.
it. You're
I
not
know,
going
right?
to get rich quick and you're not going to be well immediately or lose weight immediately. Yeah.
Hey, if that was the case, we'd all be rich and fit.
Oh,
So,
right.
I
Right.
wish.
What tell me some of the challenges you face when you are talking to C-suite, like other than, what are some of the pushback you get other than is there really an ROI to this? What are some of the other kind of arguments you hear that you have to overcome when you're talking to a company about working with you?
I think the biggest thing other than ROI, because that is the biggest thing, is participation. Because I think that most companies have at least attempted some
Mhm.
sort of wellness program in the past, whether they have one now or they've, like I said, done it in the past. And I think what happens is they get such low participation rates that they hesitate to bring in someone else, spend more money to see it
Mm-hmm.
go down the drain because the participation rates were lower. So what I do to overcome that is just say, well, what was the program? And then I would say not 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, it's usually just an EAP system that their insurance companies already offer. There is zero accountability. You're given an account manager, but it's a different level of accountability that not many people adapt to. Or they offer on-site fitness classes, or they offer on-site fruits and veggies. But what about those remote workers? What about those who travel? What about those who are on a production floor and don't get breaks? They only get 2 15-minute breaks in a day. What about all those employees that are getting left out of those programs? And what about your lack of accountability of promoting this program? Like, what's the point in having it? It doesn't matter if it's free, if it's not promoted, right?
That is a fair point. I have a LinkedIn Learning course on that very topic of communicating your total rewards, and it turns out HR is not too great at marketing. So I feel like every HR department should have a marketing person in it to market the stuff that HR is up to.
Yes, absolutely. I could not agree with you more. And I think that's the biggest thing is the reason we niche a little bit more towards small to medium-sized businesses is that fact is there's not a huge HR department and they're given 500 responsibilities
Yep.
and wellness is not on their priority because it's not a direct ROI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So getting back to our title of our show today, which was, engaging the disengaged workforce with wellness. So you're kind of answering it already, but just to kind of drill into that more.
Summarize,
so we have virtual employees, they may be disengaged, even employees on site may be disengaged. So connect that dot for me. How does doing a workplace wellness program re-engage people in the work environment?
Yeah, and so if I repeat anything, I apologize. But as you said, I was somewhat answering them throughout. I think the biggest thing that I would say is studies have been showing that hybrid work is becoming so big now. So making sure that you at least meet the people that you're working with face to face once, twice, however many times you can. Because I think that people desire and miss face to face. And while it's funny because the stats are interesting, but the majority of people want to work remote, but the majority of people also want to work for an employer that engages them. So that's a tough, how do we do that? Yes.
Tall order.
It is a tall order. So that's why hybrid's becoming so big, right? So it's about your wellness program actually going out and saying, hey guys, yes, you have your job, but your employer also cares about your personal being and your well-being with your coworkers. We want you to get along with them. So not only going the face-to-face, but to add to what you said is surveying them and actually holding them accountable to do these surveys. And I say to them, I know it takes some time in your life, and I'm sorry I'm interrupting, but this is for you.
Right.
I want to do what I can to make you a happier, healthier employee and not want to keep jumping ship, because even though people jump ship for more money, we all know that's more stressful on everyone. So, yeah.
So I wanted to talk to you, and the questions stop coming through. Keep them coming. If you have a question, post it in the chat, and then we can all pitchfork and get after that spammer. Shame on you if you're still on there. So there was an article that came out, I want to say earlier this year, from the McKinsey Health Institute, and essentially the article said, burnout is the number one reason people were leaving their organizations. They were burnt out and stressed out. And the number one reason they were burnt out was your workplace employers. So, the point was kind of like, if you've got a workplace wellness program that's focused on employee well-being, but you're also asking them to work 12 hours a day and be available all the time, that's a real disconnect. And the point was like, you got to start with your culture and the stress that you're creating from inside the workforce, because that workplace wellness is all moot if you're like, here, go to yoga, participate in this competition, here's a gym, but also work 12 hours every day. So I was just curious about your thoughts on that too, because this is where you and I converge, right? That I come up with the toxic work environment that's causing burnout, and then you come up with your workplace wellness and help people, improve and sort of heal.
Yeah, absolutely. No. And I think the biggest concept that comes from that is no matter how many times I tell my clients they shouldn't be working 12 hours a day, that won't change
Right.
because they're not gonna, they just won't do that. And so what I have to do is find a way to allow them these resources, even though they have to work those amount of hours. So one thing that we do is I would say over 75% of the app fitness classes that we offer are all no equipment at home, 5 to 15 minutes, as an example. Very simple recipes under 30 minutes that anyone can do last minute. Mindfulness techniques, you do have 15-minute breaks. So open your app, do an immediate breathing technique, do a 5-minute meditation just to reset your mind and bring you back into the engagement that you're trying to maintain throughout your 12-hour workday. So,
okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. And I kind of joke with HR a lot of times that we have to be HR ninjas. We gotta make things happen, even if we don't have permission. We have to
exactly
work our way through the company and figure out. Sounds like you're doing the same thing.
Well, it stinks because HR is always blamed, and it's like, trust me, if it was my choice, you guys would have a great work-life, integration.
Oh my gosh, I know. Poor HR in my world of bullying, they get the bad, the bad end of the stick there. They people really blame HR for not helping them when they're complaining about bullying. And having been in that position as HR, receiving complaints and then being told don't do anything about it, that's a high performer. I think there's a big disconnect about what I think people think HR's got a lot more power than they really do. And
absolutely. Could not agree more.
HR's got to get permission from the C-suite. Sharif has another question. What are some new programs we can implement in a wellness strategy? So I love that question. I guess I would rephrase it to say, if we were all going to go and start in on workplace wellness right after this LinkedIn live show, what should we do? What's our first step?
Well, our first step would be we're all over social media, LinkedIn, all that. Reach out to me. What we do is we create a customized program because every company is completely different. We do have a list of everything we offer, and we go through that list, and you choose what you feel would work for your company. What we're trying to say is that wellness is completely different for everyone. And not only every company, but every individual within every company.
Right.
So what we do is we come in, we go through what you want. We come up with a committee. So you have a wellness committee, and the wellness committee I push are two things. One person from each department of your company and one person from each department that's not incredibly busy to miss anything, and has the leadership ability, someone that you want to test out to see, hey, could they be a rising star in our company, and giving them that potential to have a lead position in a committee and be the voice for that department is going to make them feel empowered and going to make them want to do it. And so coming together on a monthly basis and going, what's working, what's not, what competitions can we do, what surveys can I put out to engage your employees more? So it's really about going into a deep dive of what your employees want and then going from there. There's no way it'll be successful if you just assume.
Yep. And we're the same. We do start with a survey, figure out what's going on. We get calls for training all the time. Like, are you sure that's what we should be doing? Maybe we should ask. Liz has a question. In the IT industry, it seems like there's a tendency. Oh, wait, I forgot I can do this. Here we go. In the IT industry, it seems like there's a tendency to work toward client-involved employees, but the backstage employees are left out of the wellness commitment. How to raise this concern to provide the same care through the entire organization? Great question, Liz.
That's a great question. I love that question. Go ahead. Where we?
Oh no, you go ahead. What do you think? How do we make sure that the back of the house, as they say in the restaurant business, is getting all the same benefits?
You require it. That's what you do. That's what I say. Whenever I go to a client, we have 4 pillars at Workplace Wellness, which is holistic, inclusive, engaging, and affordable. All those things together can be what brings those people in. I will never go up to an organization and say, you can only hire for a certain part of your business. That's not how we work. You have to offer it to every employee. We make it affordable. Trust me. I mean, we find a way to work with you to make it affordable, because while we're not, nonprofit by any means, we do want to make a difference. We want employees to use this. We want them to be successful at it. So the reality of it is we require all employees are at least offered our app that has thousands of wellness resources that they can always look at whenever they want. If you want to do different departmental competitions, that's one thing. If you want to do different, bring in the teamwork, I love that. However, when it comes to at least offering the wellness program to everyone, every single person's offered it.
I love that. I want to add a tip to just, okay, there we go. Thanks, Liz, for your question.
That was a great question.
So I share this a lot, and everyone's kind of like, really, you do that? But so my team is small but mighty. But we are, and this was at the request of one of my employees who used to be in the office. She moved during COVID because she could, right? We were virtual. And so then she kind of realized, I'm lonely. I'm used to being in the office with you, Catherine. Could we start being on Google Hangouts? Just kind of throughout the day, so that it's not always like, we're going to meet on Monday at 9 and then who knows if I'll see you again. So we have a standing Google Hangout link on our calendars. And so we're all kind of in there all throughout the day.
Oh, nice.
And it really emulates the office chitter chatter, of like, and we're on there a lot of times just silently working. And then all of a sudden someone's like, I'm hungry. What should I eat? And then it just kind of has that same vibe, and it's been great.
Yeah.
And for a while there, we had TEDx Friday where we watched a 10-minute TEDx and we were stretching while we were watching it, and we were doing it all together. So I was just thinking, that would be a great way to engage people as well, that you could do some sort of breathing exercise together, all on virtually. And I do also recommend the open-ended Google Hangout link. It's been amazing. So
I love that. Actually, what we do too is virtually or on site. We play in the beginning media trivia games, and the trivia games are like 5 to 10 questions. It doesn't take very long, but they're all related to wellness in some way. So I was actually at a client meeting this morning with the wellness committee, and in the beginning we did like a 5-question nutrition quiz, and we asked these basic nutrition questions, and everyone that got it was just very engaging. Everyone was like laughing, like, how did you get that wrong? So I think in the end, like, people like want to have fun, and unfortunately, we are working more hours than we are at home with our family, and we need to find a way to integrate that together, especially if we're changing into this hybrid world. So
for sure. On that note, thank you so much, Andrea. This was awesome, an awesome chat. Hope everyone got a lot out of it. Thank you for your questions. And if you want to reach out to Andrea, she's here on this LinkedIn page, so you can just connect with her on LinkedIn. Also, what's your website, Andrea? And I'll make sure it gets posted.
I was actually going to say, I will also comment a QR code. The QR code will bring me to my Linktree, which has our website, social medias. You can book an appointment with me. I have 30-minute initial consultations to kind of go over what your company's problems are, how we can be an assistance for you. So I will post that QR code. Perfect. We are workplacewellnessus.com, though, so if you want to check that out. Otherwise, I'll post that where the thread. I'll post the QR code and scan it. Go ahead and reach out to me.
Awesome. I love that you have that. Thank you. All right, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.